Hey everyone, Sajil Qureshi here with another episode of RevOps 500. Today I am super pumped. Not every day we get somebody like Mike Donnelly on. Mike is the CEO and co-founder of 7Sense, one of the cool email marketing intelligence applications you can find in the marketplace today. So Mike, welcome to RevOps 500.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Sajil, and always enjoy our conversations.
Yeah, same. So let's get right to it then, Mike. What is your biggest mistake?
Oh, professionally or personally?
You go wherever you want to go with it, Mike. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah, I got a lot of them. I don't always call them mistakes, though. I like to refer to them as learning opportunities. But from a professional perspective, probably starting a business. I think you might even have some of your own stories there.
So starting a business. So I mean, look, 7 Cents is not like a unsuccessful business. I think you've been doing that about 13, 14 years, I think, something like that. So I mean, like, that's a lifetime, in this day and age. I mean, why is that a learning opportunity, not a mistake in your opinion?
Um, Gosh, we could go on for definitely days on this one. No, in all transparency, I'm very glad that I did it. If somebody would have told me 13 years ago that, hey, this is hard, I don't know that I would have believed them. I didn't, or I should say, I wouldn't have known that it was going to be as hard as it is to really build a business. All of the things that all of the hoops you got to jump through. I like to consider myself a chief janitor. You just come along and clean things up all day, every day, and but have it's I think I've learned more in the past 13 years than I could have going to school for 50 years. So it's
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the biggest challenges I think I've embarked on in my life.
Yeah, so and that's like, and you mentioned schools, and you mentioned, like, the education you get for running a business and stuff like that. Like, now I know, I think, I mean, you went to Radford, if I'm not mistaken, and you studied engineering geology. Is that am I getting that right? Or
Yeah, that is correct. So I studied. Well, my primary focus of study was geology. I was planning to potentially go into coastal engineering, so I did it with a specialty in engineering geosciences. Um, and then, just as a quick background, my senior year, I got involved with one of my professors. He was writing a program to predict, like, if you ever drive down highways, especially in mountainous areas,
yeah.
you see all these road cuts. Well, you have to push road cuts back depending on the type of rock that it is.
Oh,
So that's why you see, like, you'll drive down the highway and some rock slopes will just be 90 degrees. And then some will be, laid back 45 degrees. Some will be laid back 30 degrees. And the reason why you have to do that is because if you don't, you'll have a lot of rock slides, mudslides, those types of things, which can obviously kill people, take the highway out, etc. So he wrote a program to predict the rock slope stability and how far you'd have to do road cuts back. That
wow.
program is still one of the most used in today's world of engineering geology. So I started working with him on that. I got fascinated with writing code, and then I got an opportunity to work for a biotech company coming right out of college as a software engineer. And we were the company that mapped the human genome. So I got early exposure to massive, massive data sets. And at the time, we had the largest supercomputer in the private world. So I also got exposure to very, very large scale compute at the time.
And so that answered my question about, like, how does a geologist end up in the world of, email marketing intelligence? And I guess that's, and then says it's the biggest learning opportunity of his life. So that's kind of where I was going with the question. So thanks for answering before I got there. I mean, but like, so what exactly would you say is like in the 13 years, what would you say is like the most stressful time or the most intense time where you felt like, it's kind of like a tipping moment, whether it's gonna go this way, like one of those highway cliffs that you're talking about, or it's gonna go this way, like a mudslide that one of your programs would kind of prevent from happening. Was there a moment like that where it happened in the 13 years at 7 cents, or what?
Well, I want to come back to one thing you said earlier because it's funny. I was, if you don't know the name, because he said something very similar. The gentleman who was more or less kind of the founder of the human genome is a gentleman by the name of Craig Venner. If you look at genealogy or the study of genomics, he is, I mean, just articles and articles and articles. And I was having lunch with him one day because all new hires at Celera Genomics got to have lunch. And he said, and he was going around the room and all these people had just ungodly impressive backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, hey, I'm just graduated from college. Oh, what'd you study? I said, I studied geology with engineering. He goes, what in the hell do geology and biology have in common? So it goes back to your earlier question of like, wow, okay, what do geology and biology? But as far as like, has there been a tipping point of where I felt, oh, this is not going to be successful, this is going to be successful? I mean, heck, to this day, I still have those challenges. But there were some very dark periods where it's like restless, sleepless nights. We chose very early on to bootstrap the company, self-fund it. I had luckily a very successful sales career after I was a software engineer. So I had, a lot of financial resources. Time will tell, but I took all those financial resources that I had and literally dumped them into the company. And again, full transparency, that's what I believe in. I've done things like remortgage my house. I don't have a 401k anymore. I've sold all my assets. And it is just like, I went all in on 7 cents. And so my chips are on the table, as far as where things stand. Now, I do own a house. I have kids and things like that. But yeah, all in on the company. So there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about that.
Yeah, and that's kind of that is kind of the the learning opportunity in running a place like that, right? You almost, if you do it well, or the way that you've done it and the way that even I've done it, you get paid last, right? You're
Yep.
last in line for all that stuff. It might look like, oh, you're the CEO, you're the guy, you're the one who's telling everybody what to do, smartest guy in the room sometimes, but it's like you eat last, you get paid last, and all those things. And yeah, that will always be like you always will wonder, is that a mistake or not? Should I have just been like a guy at a job, or a girl at a job, whatever, and
I'd
working.
probably be retired now. Like I truly would probably be retired now. I'm 48 years old. That was kind of my goal, was retire by 50. And luckily I do take breaks. I coach a lot of youth sports, and that's kind of that's my outlet. So I definitely try to compartmentalize personal life and professional life. But back to your point around, I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. Like, luckily, my team, I'm the dumbest guy in the room, which means I did something right. But yeah, it's that's where we're at.
And so let's talk a little bit about like I mean, why are you so like invested into 7 cents? What about it do you believe in so much that you would put all your chips into the table and hedge every bet on yourself? Like, what about it what about it makes it that way?
I think it really just comes, excuse me, down to the foundation of why me and my co-founder started the company. So when during my professional sales career, I'm still in sales. I think everybody in a business is in sales.
Yeah.
Um, I just really started to notice, and this dates back to 2008, 2009, that reaching people was getting just fundamentally hard. I had very large customers that, we were doing millions of dollars in revenue with a year. Some of those people that were executives at those organizations, I mean, heck, some of them had even been to my wedding. I'd gone to their weddings. Like these turned into real personal relationships. And from time to time, I would get a call from, a CTO or a VP of IT, and they'd be like, Mike, why in the hell is this project getting delayed? And I'm like, it's not our fault. It's you personally have not responded to the last 5 emails I've sent. I've left you multiple voicemails, and the resounding response was always, well, heck, Mike, I never saw your emails. I get hundreds a day. I get dozens of phone calls a day. And one day it just dawned on me, like, hey, I should spend some time trying to, some mental energy trying to figure out people's patterns. Like, don't call Jeff on Fridays. He's always out on the golf course. If I want to get a hold of Jen, she typically will answer my phone calls at 7 a.m. If I want to get a hold of Brenton, he will typically respond to emails at 10 p.m. And then one day, again, it dawned on me, why the hell am I spending mental energy on this? It's probably in data. And what I mean by data, it's probably in the metadata sitting in my, just an email. And so we had a hypothesis that, hey, human beings are creatures of habit. They get out of bed at certain times of day, they start a work day at certain times of day, have personal commitments at certain times of day. Do they actually have patterns in when they're more likely to respond to digital communication, whether that's answer their phone, respond to emails, etc.? And so that was the hypothesis. And then we went off and we built a system that analyzed all of the metadata of my email. So to, from, CC, timestamp, very simple process. Now, back in 2013, we didn't have all the data and technology or the data technologies that we have today. So we had to build it all from scratch. Nobody had done it. Nobody had experimented with this before. And what we realized in just looking at my email, crap, people, this is real. People have these patterns. So we took the idea, and I will come full circle to your original question. We took the idea to the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar organization, and he said, oh my gosh, this is like, I've got 300 sales reps. They're all having the exact same problem. I notice it in our metrics. Our call connect rates are going down. Our response rates over email are going down. Deals are taking longer to close. And so he said, look, I'll open the door. You can just have full access to all of our data. It's got to live here on site. So we went off and we did that's where we did kind of like a proof of concept as our first customer. And what we saw was just unbelievable. So we analyzed all of their phone data. So outgoing number, incoming number, whether or not it was a connect or not. And then we would profile phone number and would say, you have a higher probability of this phone answering at this time. And their sales reps increased and CEO at the forefront said, if you could increase my connect rates by a fraction of a percent, that is a massive business value. We not only increased it a fraction, we can increase their connect rate by 38%.
Wow.
So it was just mind-blowing to everybody involved. But an even more important metric that he uncovered was that if they called during a predicted time, if sales reps called during a predicted time, because what they used to do is they'd say, hey, here's 50 people I need to call today. They'd pick up the phone, they'd smile and dial. Instead, it would be like they'd push a button and say, call these people in the 9 a.m. hour, these people in the 10 a.m. hour, these people in the 11 a.m. hour. But what was the most interesting metric to him was the talk time, because they also monitor the talk time of their connects, was 18% longer. And that was an indicator that their reps were having a more valuable conversation, because people weren't just picking up their phone and going, hey, you called me at a bad time, call me later today, call me tomorrow. They were actually having longer conversations. At that point, this dates back to 2013. That was a 1.5 year long pilot, because I still had a real job. So I was doing it in nights and weekends. CEO, after we uncovered all of this data and these metrics, he said, look, I'll be your first customer. So based on what we saw, both me and my co-founder quit our jobs. And going back to the darkest days, we tried to build a product for individual sales reps to use, where you would connect up your email account, we'd go profile people, we would make predictions on, hey, your response rates from Jen, your reply rates from Jen will be higher on Mondays in the 6 p.m. hour than they would at any other time of day. That failed miserably, and at that point, we almost gave up. We were on, you know, a thread away from just pulling the trigger and saying, okay, this isn't going to work. Our approach isn't going to work. And it took us to actually years to realize why it didn't work. It was because sales reps don't want another tool to go to. And sales reps can also, newsflash, be very arrogant. Oh, I'm the most important person in Jen's mind. And I would get this response all the time. Mike, she always responds to my emails. I don't get your product. And I would say, okay, so Jen always responds to you. But what happens if you send her an email on Monday and she takes until Friday to respond?
Yeah.
What have you just done? You just lost 5 days in your sales cycle. What do you want at the end of every quarter? Another 5 days of selling time because you weren't able to get everything, just kept getting pushed and delayed, you know. And so by simply realizing, hey, if I emailed Jen on Monday morning at 6 a.m. and she immediately responded to me, I don't lose that 5 days. So it's really like, it's a game of inches. That's, at the end of the day, that's what sales is. And so again, we almost gave up. And then we got an introduction to Mark Roberge, who at the time was the CRO of HubSpot.
Yep.
And at that time he said, hey, look, we're looking to shift a little bit of focus. We want people to build apps on, you know, we're going to try and become a platform company.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 2015. So we built on HubSpot. And we realized, and we quickly got our first 10 customers, because that was a requirement in order to become part of HubSpot's app ecosystem. And we were one of the first entrants into that. We got our first 10 customers within a period of 2 months. And every single one of them was like, this sounds great. Let's trial it. And it was all about, hey, I've got this list of 5,000, 50,000, or 500,000 people that I want to email about a promotion or about whatever. Well, we would analyze all of the metadata or engagement data sitting in HubSpot. So open data, click data, device data, the recency of the event. And then we fed it all into this very simple algorithm that we built. And then rather than sending 5,000, 50,000, or 500,000 people an email at 10 a.m. on Wednesday because you read 50 blog posts that say 10 a.m. is the time to send email, or maybe you've done some A/B testing that produced unstatistically significant results, and that just proved your gut right that 10 a.m. is the right time. At that time, some organizations HubSpot didn't have it, but they were doing time zone sending. That still doesn't resolve the issue. So with our system, you could actually say, Jen's part of this 5,000 group. She's going to get her email at 6 a.m. Jen's going to get his email in the 9 p.m. hour. Jen's going to get or Sarah's going to get her email in the 11 p.m. hour. And so that was kind of where we started in the HubSpot ecosystem. We then built an integration with Marketo, and both of those integrations and partnerships still live today.
Yeah. So, and like, it's like a very, it's usually it's not like a highway to like getting to from point A to point B and something like that. I mean, and when you were on a thread and you realized you couldn't send the salespeople directly, that's when you made a change and started to go more platform specific. You know, you mentioned Mark Roberge, you know, the first one of the heroes of HubSpot, that kind of thing. So when you're in those like in those dark times, I mean, when they come out, like what's like your typical, you know, thing? Because obviously when you're operating an operation like 7sense is, you know, there's got to be like, it happens probably all the time, right? There's just some threat that comes out and you got to like deal with it. Probably happened today, probably happened last week, where, you know, I got to deal with this thing. Otherwise, you know, this could be a bigger problem, or there's a fire to put out, like the janitor, like you said, you're always cleaning up stuff.
Yep.
So do you have like a, I mean, are you numb to it now, or does it get harder as 13 years in than it did in year one? What's like the crisis management, protocol like these days?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So we, as I mentioned at the outset, we decided to bootstrap, self-fund the company. Um, we have brought on, it's it's eight of us. Seven of those are engineers, so heavily product focused.
Mhm.
So, am I numb to the issues? No, not at all. The challenge becomes, given a lean team, you've really got to make the product work and be self-sustainable. And so that's always been a big challenge. And then it's like, hey, I want to take a day off. I can tell you in 13 years I've never been able to take a day off. I'm on vacation. I like to surf. When I'm out surfing, I'm looking at my Apple Watch. Hey, do I have any emails coming in? And I've got my iPad sitting on the beach. And every once in a while, you got to go in while you're on vacation, go grab out the iPad, respond to a customer request. You know, 98% of the time, the issue isn't us. It's something with HubSpot or Marketo, but that always falls on us for known reasons, because we want people using the system, and HubSpot Marketo support isn't the greatest. Back then HubSpot support was pretty strong, but these days it's
Yeah, a little
pretty
touching.
awful.
Yeah,
But
touching. And so, like when you say like you never take a day off because you're still not numb to the like like the day-to-day crisis management of running a company. So I mean, like, is that like a, I mean, is it because you can't take a day off? I mean, you don't get sick? I mean, or when you get sick, or do you just play hurt? Like, what's the situation? Are you away from
I,
Krypton? Like, what?
I wish I could say that I never have gotten sick, but you still got to wake up and type the emails to folks. Hey, I know we had a meeting today. We got to reschedule. And again, I do have other team members that will jump in. Like, hey, if you see a support issue, guys, I need somebody else to man those. But that's not to say that, hey, I can just tell somebody, because they don't always have the context of, hey, here's everything that's going wrong, etc. And at the end of the day, one of the things that I truly pride ourselves on is customer success. And part of that, like, one of the things that brings me the most joy is seeing reviews in the HubSpot app marketplace. Like, there's a common theme there of what customers say around the support levels that we provide, the product, what it's done for them personally, what it's done for their business. That's how I measure the success of the business is, hey, did you implement our software and did you get any accolades for it? Did you get promoted because you made a decision there? That's my North Star metric is, are our users or our customers having so much success with the system that it's making them better professionals?
Professionals. Okay, so in a similar vein, like, what is the best email that you can receive in your inbox, and what is the worst email that you could receive in your inbox? You don't have to give like specifics, like subject matter or whatever. After 13 years, and is that the same as it was in year one?
So let's go back to year one or two, and this still is bothersome, but like, I might have one person at a larger organization that is fully implemented, fully manages 7sense along with HubSpot or Marketo. And you get an email from them, hey, Mike, I'm leaving the organization. Here's the person you need to interact with. And then you go try to interact with that person, and they just want nothing to
Nothing.
do with you. They don't have the context. So the customer churns. And it's like, gosh, I spent a lot of time making sure that, this customer was successful. They had, they had a great experience with us.
Mhm.
So they churn. But what I didn't, and because it was so early, is a lot of those customers that churn, when they land at their new jobs, they call us up. Hey, Mike, haven't talked to you for a few months. Hey, we're using HubSpot over here. We're using Marketo over here. We want to implement 7cents. How do we make that, how do we make that happen? So that's dating back of like, that was kind of the worst email that you would get is,
Yeah.
hey, I'm leaving the organization. Because you knew 70% of the time you knew what that meant. This customer's churning. And so you had your champion, they left.
Yeah.
But then the good thing is probably 90% of those people, if I go back and look, 90% of those people came back. And a lot of the ones that didn't come back, they went to an organization that was using Salesforce Marketing Cloud or Pardot or
Yes.
Klaviyo, and we just couldn't support them. Hey, Mike, do you have an integration with Klaviyo? Nope. Oh, sorry. Well, we can't do business with you.
Yeah.
The best emails back then were obviously, hey, Mike, we've got approvals. We're ready to go. I would still say to this day, those are the best emails we get is, hey, Mike, we're ready to go. We whether that's a large deal or a small deal, it's a win. The worst emails today are, hey, we just didn't get it fully implemented. And we don't have the time. We lost our budget. Those types of things. Because at the end of the day, a lot of that is, if somebody comes to us and says, hey, we just never got it fully implemented, I can't blame them. That's sure, we can play the blame game all day long. Like, hey, you weren't motivated to drive better performance from your email program. Clearly, you didn't care about your email program very much. Now, I could take that approach, or I could say, hey, that's on us. Like, we need to show them why their email program is so valuable to their organization. So those are kind of like the best and worst stories.
Okay. So when it's, let's talk about the worst ones, obviously. So, I mean, so today someone says, we just couldn't implement 7cents, it just took too long or whatever the reason is. I mean, how do you change? Like, do you have like, do you work on like an onboarding plan? Do you have people who just, is there like step-by-step things that you do, or is it more like, you just say, well, they weren't ready for it and I'm just going to go on to the next and that kind of thing?
No, so you asked some awesome questions, Sajil. So we learn from every one of those, and it's like, how can we make the product sticky from day one? So historically we have always done personalized onboarding. And it's not like onboarding our system is very hard. It's a lot of the challenges are, especially like HubSpot organizations that use HubSpot. A lot of people claim that they know how to use workflows. We know this for a fact, coming from HubSpot products, like leadership within HubSpot's product. I probably shouldn't share these numbers, but I'm going to. About 90% of their customers don't know how to use workflows. In order to use our system, which I think their workflow engine is the most powerful tool that they have in their marketing tool belt. So HubSpot themselves does not do a good job of onboarding their customers. So we end up taking, because when you use 7cents, you have to utilize their workflow engine, their automation engine, whether that's for one-off emails, automation campaigns, evergreen content, all of those things. So that's where we've learned a lot of how can we better onboard customers that don't know how to utilize workflows, and also how can they get deep performance insights from like day one of signing up for the system, and integrating our system with HubSpot. So part of it is making things more self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
We've invested heavily in things like knowledge bases, et cetera. But what we typically find is, humans have gotten lazy. It's like, I don't want to go read a knowledge base article. I want to have another human show me exactly how to do this. Now you've got agents that can show you partially how to do things.
Yeah.
Um, so we've just constantly been like things like building out workflow templates rather than you having to go in and build workflows from scratch. You simply click a push button and it pushes a whole structure of a workflow into HubSpot for you. So we have worked over the years to identify those friction points and tried to remove as many as possible. And what that also allows us to do is, rather than doing 2 or 3 calls onboarding and 90% of that time being teaching customers how to use HubSpot
Yeah.
instead of 7 cents, we're now able to say, okay, well, we'll have a 30-minute call, walk you through the whole onboarding process. And by the time you're done with that 30-minute call, they're already using the system. And then we also recommend things like some testing behind it, so that you have an immediate insight that you can go to leadership and say, the product is actually doing what it's supposed to do, and here's all of the data to prove it. So those are things that, and really ever since we implemented that approach of really listening and thinking about how do we remove that friction, our churn rates are incredibly low. In fact, that first customer that I was talking about that was our pilot, they have since grown from 300 sales reps to 3,000 sales reps. Every one of those sales reps uses our product all day, every day. They're doing tens of billions in revenue every year. So that's our first customer 13 years ago is still using our product. We have customers on HubSpot that started 9 years ago that are still using our product day in and day out. So the lifetime value, things like that, if we can just get somebody over that hump, it just becomes, why would we do it? Why would we go back to the way people were sending emails in 2010, 2015, 2020, instead of utilizing AI as our kind of approach?
Yeah, and that's it's funny that you mentioned kind of getting over the hump, right? Like it's like almost like once you get somebody in, the stickiness of the product is pretty high. People will use it and they'll continue to use it, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about the company in and of itself, because most, like, we're developers. People come to us asking, back in the day before vibe coding was a thing, people ask us, build my SaaS product for me so that I can go and sell it, right? And that kind of
Yep.
thing. But of course, that's a money pit, as you have firsthand experience far more than I do. Talk me through that part of that journey, right? Where, like, you're not making any money, you're building this thing. It's like Kevin Costner Field of Dreams, right? Build it and people will come, right? But how do you get through that building part? Because nobody cares, right, about what you're doing or how you're doing it, and you've got a day job at the same time. I mean, what was that journey all like?
Oh God, that was another painful one, or painful experience. So when we first started the company, it was just Eric and myself
Yeah,
working on it. Trying to figure out algorithmically pulling data in. Like, I remember even when we tried to go this to support sales reps, like getting access and the data into our systems with an email account that had 100,000 email addresses was like, that was painful. We have customers that have billions and billions of data points and tens of millions of email addresses, and like our system doesn't break a sweat with that today. But the way that we got there was Eric and I first, kind of built the prototype,
yeah,
and then we hired a outsourcing engineering firm, which I would not recommend. That was an awful experience, especially the first time around. Then we found another engineering firm that we thought we liked better. So we fired the one, brought on the other one. That one failed. And just from a learning experience, because I'm all about talking about those, outsourcing engineering is a very, very, like, that's your core business, is We're building a product. Why would I outsource that? But when you outsource to these organizations, they'll come back to you and say, well, you said you wanted the button blue. And it's like, yeah, but I also wanted the button to work. Like, so there's a mismatch there. In addition to that, they don't have the same motives that you have, which are, hey, I need to keep our AWS bill down instead of you just spinning up all kinds of, like, performance needs to be there. Don't spin up 50 instances that's going to cost me $5,000 a month for something that I don't even have revenue for. That this business is not going to scale. I can't charge a sales rep $50,000 a year for this product. So as time went on, so then we got rid of the second outsourced group. Then we even went on, I don't know if you've ever heard of TopTal. We brought in
Yes.
two guys
Yes.
from TopTal, and still a very similar experience. They don't have the same motivations that you do, like, which are, hey, we want a product, we want a great product, we want the product to work. Whereas their motivation is, hey, I've been on these projects before. They usually last 6 months. Let me just milk it as much as I can. Because I know that I can milk it and I'll have a job for at least 6 months.
6 months.
So again, just mismatched motivations. And then we realized, okay, we're never doing this outsourcing again. This is too complex of a product. It's never been done before. We're not just putting some wrapper around data. We're actually doing real hard data and engineering. So then that's when we started building out our own team.
And like, so your experience is very well, unique, because most of the time people will fail in that first engagement. Yeah, it's like a time and material engagement. They're gonna, like, okay, here's what we're building. Is we're building we're building a chair, right? Oh, you want the chair to be different because that's what's in it for the product, right? But they're saying, well, you told me to build it this way, now I'm going to charge you more to do it this way. So most people they'll run out of runway, right? Most entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs will run out of that. And how did you, did you survive because you had the day job going at the same time? Or was it because you guys were doing product a bit on your own because you know how to program? Or what got you through? Because most people don't get over that hump, right? There's like a graveyard of people who try to be like what 7sense is, like a structured company with employees, and they're supporting it, they have a product and all that kind of stuff. But how did you get past it? What was it?
Sheer grit. And as far as the nights and weekends, I only did that up until we got our first customer. And then that's where the real pain became, which was, oh my gosh, I don't have this day job to backstop me anymore. And quite frankly, if I would have stayed with my day job, I probably would have quit. It was like, no, this is life or death. And it is truly life or death, because if you can't pay your bills, it's not an option.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of sleepless nights, pure grit, lots of roller coaster of emotions. I have a phenomenal wife that has supported me throughout this, as much as she might, sometimes say, well, we used to be able to go on vacation whenever we wanted, spend whatever we wanted, do whatever we wanted. And it's like, gosh, me and Eric started this company when we both, literally our second kids were 6 months old.
Wow.
So you have that stress of like, God, I have kids that I also have to support. And then it just really, it dominoed from there, which was, gosh, I've invested, as I mentioned, I sold all my stock assets. I, refinanced my house, sold my 401k. I just went all in, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And, maybe that's an addictive personality problem. And some people probably would say, Mike, you have a true problem. Like you are, you have a gambling problem at the end of the day. And I always make a joke. What I probably should have done is in 2013, fly out to Vegas with every single dime that I had and put it all on black. And the whole situation would have been done in about 30 seconds. And I would have realized what I was either meant to be successful or I wasn't meant to be successful.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's gambling alcoholics and there's gambling workaholics, right?
right.
That's the
Exactly. Exactly.
and so like I mean and so say someone comes around now like some really sharp 20 something some odd year old, you know, guy or whatever, guy, girl, whatever, some kid, and they says like, you know, relative to us, and they say, you know what, I want to start a business. You know, what do you do? Do you tell them to run to it or run from hell from it? Like what do you tell them? What's your advice?
No, I don't encourage anybody from running away from it. And as I mentioned earlier, I coach a lot of sports. So I coach kids that are now in college, and they come back to me, and they know that I started a business. Hey, I'm thinking about either going into this profession or starting a business. You
Mhm.
know, and it's the same thing. Start it, but start it while you have a backstop, whether that's a full time job. Because if you're not willing to work the nights and weekends at that point in your life, you're not going to be, you have
A chance.
zero chance of being successful.
Yeah, yeah.
Zero. Now, it is going to affect your ability to be successful at your current job because your mental energy half the day is going to be thinking about that. And your employer is not going to like that. I was lucky enough to where I was further enough in my career that even the CEO of, and we were a publicly traded organization, said, Mike, I absolutely love what you're doing. Can you stay on board for a few more months so that we can transition these accounts? And again, this is a multi-billion dollar organization. The CEO is asking me, which obviously felt good, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it was like, okay, I know you're not going to work very hard. You're going to work 20 hours a week. I still want to pay you. I still want your stock to vest. I still want you to make money. But can you give me a few more months of your mental energy? Not all of it, just some of it, so that we can, do a proper handoff with these enterprise organizations. Um, so for anybody that is thinking about it, that's younger, have a backstop. Until you can really say, okay, I have something here. Go get your first 10 customers. And then you make the call. Do you still feel passionate about it? Do you feel like it solves a real problem? Now, if you're in college, totally different ballgame. I literally just had this conversation about a month ago with a kid that I used to coach, and he was talking to me how he wanted to get into more or less AI safety.
Mhm.
And I was blown away because most kids in college are not thinking about the ethics of AI. They're
Yeah.
thinking about how can I go make a bunch of money with AI and how can I shortcut the system, et cetera, that's okay too. But he wants to get into the ethics side of it. And he had some ideas and things like that. And I said, dude, just go build a product or go
Mhm.
build something. And regardless of whether or not you're passionate about, regardless of whether or not that's successful, you're going to learn a ton. Well, guess what? As a new college graduate, it is hard as hell to get a job these days. I think it's something like 35% of new graduates are underemployed, meaning they work in retail or
Yeah.
some organization, some type
Hourly.
of job that has nothing to do with a professional degree.
Yeah, yeah, for
You
sure.
come out of college and say, hey, I built this product. Look, here's what it does. I'm very passionate about it. Who's the employer going to hire? Somebody that has a that has a Stanford degree, like all the big 4 or 5 accounting firms that, their rule is we won't hire you unless you came from Harvard or Stanford or whatever, which I think is stupid because those companies are going to get crushed by AI.
Yeah.
Or you're going to hire the kid that came from some no-name college that built a very cool product that he's passionate about that solves this, potential issue, even though it might have real enterprise applicability, or there's some enterprise that has a solution that matches exactly what you built. I'm hiring that
The
kid
kid.
coming out of college all day that went to the no-name school that actually is passionate about something, that actually rolled up his sleeves and tried to solve the issue. That's who I'm hiring.
Of course,
Is that
100%.
person?
Yeah, every time, because that person put in the hard yards to get something done, right? Actually, they're doers, right? They're not looking at a watch and telling you what the time is. They're actually building you a watch, right? It's a
Yeah.
very very different very
That is
different
an
thing.
awesome analogy.
Yeah. So tell me about what it's like with you and Eric. I mean, like, you guys started this thing. Obviously, not every conversation is an easy one, right? So, like, how many ups and downs? What's the head to head and knockouts between the two of you? Like, I mean, what's that relationship like? I mean, is it combative? Is it totally harmonious? Like, what is it? Or is it like Shaq and Kobe? Like, what are we dealing with here?
So that is where I would say I'm the luckiest person alive. Not
Okay.
only, again, do I have my wife who is just unbelievably and ungodly supportive. My co-founder is the same way. I mean, we've been together for 13 years, and even prior to that, he was a customer of mine, which is how it was date. We think of us as like dating for months and months. When I came up with the idea, I was still selling him stuff, but I came up with this idea, and it took me months to convince him that this could be a thing. And then we decided, okay, well, now we're going to go out of the dating phase, and we're going to get engaged, and we're going to both get engaged, and we're going to work on this as a nights and weekends project. During that engagement period, things went really well, and
Please.
then we said, let's get married, which meant, hey, we're both going to quit our jobs and go do this together.
Yeah.
And that marriage, like anything, there's been bumps along the way, but never like
Major ones.
divorce level disagreements.
That's
Um,
great.
it has been, I just, that is one of the luckiest, besides my wife, my kids, being healthy. I could probably rattle on a couple other things that are more personal, but doing this with Eric has just been an absolute. I can't thank the Lord enough for it, because there's no way I would have gotten through some of the tough times if Eric weren't there to not only be a psychologist but also walk things back. And I think if you talk to Eric, he would say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have, like, a partner like that if you can find them, right? It's very very difficult, and you got to know the people. You can't just kind of, like, find it online, right? You got to know them really well. You got to, like you said yourself, you sold to him before, so there's like a level of trust that's there that's not always easy to find. So tell me, for anybody who's listening who doesn't know, what exactly what's Seven Sense doing now? What's the play in the next 5-10 years for you guys? What's next?
Yeah, so we have expanded. Like, our original product was something, and again, we were more or less the inventors of it, but then more and more organizations said, oh, well, customers ask these questions. But our first product was really around send time optimization, which is that piece of, hey, I need to send an email to 500,000 people. Let's go personalize the delivery time to each one of those individuals. That has since, based on learnings, again, prior to getting into the HubSpot ecosystem and Marketo ecosystem, I knew nothing about email marketing, but I knew about data, human psychology, human behavior, and how we could connect this data to that behavior and psychology. But we just started learning about the whole world of email. And what we realized was, it doesn't matter who you send to, when you send, what you send, because you also have to think about the machines that are sitting in front of people's inboxes. So the Googles, the Microsofts, the corporate enterprise spam systems. And even back in 2020, nobody was talking about those things, where we knew very, very deeply how all of those systems worked. You fast forward to today, everybody is talking about deliverability, like everybody in the world of email marketing. Well, one, how do you get performance insights into that? No marketing automation platform in the world solves that problem. We do. Then we started realizing, well, not everybody is in the market for what you sell today. That doesn't mean that they can't be a customer 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, even 36 months down the road. Unfortunately, email marketers treat everybody the same, which is, hey, they look the same. Let's just send them all the same volume of email. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. So then they take the approach of, oh, well, we got to come up with this suppression strategy of somebody hasn't engaged in 6 months. Let's put them on ice. HubSpot has this little feature called "Don't send a contacts with low engagement." I call it the lazy button, because people don't even know what it does on the back end. They're like, "Well, my open rates and my click rates," and I'm like, "Well, what do open rates and click rates? How does that drive revenue for your business?" So we came up with a fundamentally unique concept on how to manage how to manage your engagement at an individual level. Then we started realizing, oh wow, we have this problem where, and we've all been on the recipient end of this. We sign up for a brand, we buy a product. 2 days later, we get 3 emails from them in the same day. 2 days later, we get another 3 emails from them in the same day. And it's like, holy shit, this organization is annoying as hell. So I'm going to unsubscribe, mark it as spam, or, just ignore their messages. And more people are ignoring than marking it as spam or than unsubscribing. So then we realized, well, there's got to be a better orchestration layer. So we built an orchestration layer that says, okay, based on different rules, people can get only 1 email a day and all of that. Now, this is not frequency capping like a lot of marketing it's like, no, they're already scheduled to get this 1 email today. Don't just say they don't get that email. Go pick a different day of the week that they might not have so you get rid of the email collision problem.
Yep.
So we've really nailed the who and the when. The next step for us is to solve the what problem. Like, what should I be sending to Sajil? What should I be sending to Mike? Mm-hmm. Well, that is something we've already started embarking on and building the underlying infrastructure to support it. Sajil might be more interested in emails about, he's much more of a webinar guy. Whereas Mike is much more interested in on-site events, learning in person, those types of things. You can see that in the data. You just need an AI layer to go expose that. Oh. So that's where we're going with the product this year, is answering the what question. But at the end of the day, what we really fundamentally realized was marketers are very good at creative. That AI is not going to replace creativity.
No, I don't think so.
It's going to accelerate shit, like stuff that nobody really wants to read, because they could just go simply do if you don't have context, if you don't have a unique voice, yeah, you are going to get replaced by AI. Yep. What we fundamentally came to the conclusion of, marketers do not understand Boolean logic. Like, because math, that's okay. Like you're creative. Creatives don't understand Boolean logic. So therefore, the concept of email marketing for somebody that does marketing is completely foreign to them. What marketers really need is a layer to say, hey, I created all this unique content that has a unique voice that can really transform our business and drive revenue. I don't want to deal with this whole layer of email marketing. That's what AI is really good at, Boolean logic. So you create the content, you feed it into the AI system, and then the AI figures out the who, the what, the when, and automatically executes that. You will see some of that come from us this year, so that marketers can really focus on the creative side, not the actual deployment side of it. And so if I were in email marketing, I would say, oh my gosh, this AI is potentially going to replace that whole portion of my job. Mm-hmm. What I really should be focusing on is the creative side, the conversion side, creating, an email content library that can really convert customers and users and influence them. Because at the end of the day, the world's currency isn't money. The world's currency is attention. Because if you get attention, then you can influence.
Hmm.
But in order to get attention, especially in the world of email marketing, which is ungodly competitive, and for anybody that says it's not, go look at your inbox and count how many emails you get today.
Yeah.
How do I rise above that noise?
Yeah.
That's the first step. Well, actually, the first step is, how do I even get through these spam systems to
Yeah.
get in the inbox? And then
Hmm.
how do I capture attention? Because once I capture attention, then I can capture or then I can give influence into a person's, what their behavior is going to be going down the road.
So, Mike, where can people learn more about you and 7 Cents and all that kind of stuff?
So I'm semi-active on LinkedIn. That's one place. The other places are, if you want to learn about 7 Cents, our website, which is and it's all spelled out, THE, seventh, SEVENTH, sense, SENSE.com. So instead of the Sixth Sense, which was a very popular movie, you just type in the 7cents.com and you can find us there. And then from an email perspective, I try to respond to most emails. My email is just Mike at the7cents.com.
Mike, it was awesome to like talk in depth about this kind of stuff. We never done this sort of a conversation before, so I really appreciated like learning a bit more about the backstory of 7 Cents and kind of how you navigated some tricky situations and just kind of going through the whole pulling the hood up for us today. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And again, this was more of a this was a therapy session for me as well, because you don't always get a chance to talk about it. So hopefully, if there's one listener out there that got one piece of value from this, it was well worth the time. And again, Sajil, I always love chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks. I got a lot out of it, so that's all that matters to me. So
Perfect.
anybody,
And there you go. Success.
yeah, anybody who's listening, just if you got something out of it, that's great. It's been another episode of Rebels 500. Mike, thanks again for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you.